Hello friends, this is Jim with Science Talk. I have some interesting discoveries to share with you from the world of paleontology. Let's begin with this one. Fossilized brains of ancient sea monster discovered in Greenland. The discovery of not just one but 15 fossilized brains from a 520 million year old marine predator is helping scientists understand how ancient brains evolved into the complex structures we see today. Let's put this in perspective. 520 million years ago is not too long after the Cambrian explosion. Cambrian explosion is when we see this burst of what we refer to as adaptive radiation of evolutionary forms becoming diverse and widespread. We find many of the phyla that we know of today appeared during this time period. There are others that appeared and are now extinct. This is when we see the rise of multicellular organisms. So this is right about when we have this exciting burst of evolutionary activity. So the organism in question, Kerygmachela kierkegaardi, is a kind of a strange looking critter. It's oval shaped. It was found in water, had 2 long appendages on its head, and 11 swimming flaps on each side with a skinny tail. Now this organism is not new to science, but its brains are. So says the co-lead researcher Jacob Winter, who is a paleontologist based in the United Kingdom. The animal would have been up to about 10 inches, 25 centimeters in length, based on the findings. And unlike the human brain, and this is the key finding here, the brain of this creature was simple with a single segment. Now most humans, most vertebrate brain have 3 segments: the cerebrum, the cerebellum, the medulla. So this brain was obviously then less complex than creatures that came later. And that includes, I've already mentioned vertebrates, but also arthropod relative, spiders, lobsters, even butterflies. Okay. The one-segmented brain finding is finding, and not just because it's one of the oldest fossilized brains ever found, but researchers had thought that the common ancestor of all vertebrates and arthropods had a 3-segmented brain. K. Kierkegaardi's simple brain shows that this is not the case. Despite the simplicity of the brain structure, Kierkegaardi's brain helped the predator survive during the Cambrian explosions. This is occurring right at this time period. Okay. And the Cambrian explosion, just to put it in perspective for you, is figured to have started about 540 million years ago. So this is about 20 million years after the onset. The creature also had sizable eyes, which is important if you're a predator. It helps you see what you want to eat so you can go after it. But those large eyes can also shed some light on the evolution of arthropods. This is a statement by the other co-lead researcher, Tae-Yoon Park, who is a paleontologist at the Korea Polar Research Institute. Its eyes form an intermediate step between more simple eyes and so-called more simple eyes in modern distant relatives such as velvet worms and tardigrades. Tardigrades are sometimes referred to as water bears, as well as the very, very complex eyes of arthropods. Where were these fossils found? They found in the Wen Formation of Sirius Passet in North Greenland. The study can be found in the journal Nature Communications. The next interesting paleontological find is the possibility of a baby T-Rex. Paleontologists digging in Montana in the famous Hell Creek Formation think they have hit the dinosaur jackpot. They've uncovered what appears to be a juvenile Tyrannosaurus Rex. Okay. Now, the Hell Creek Formation has proven to be a rich deposit, a rich trove of dinosaur fossils. Many different species have been dug out there, and this also continues up into the province of Alberta, where the famous, in Drumheller, Alberta, is the famous Royal Tyrrell Museum, which, if you ever get a chance to go there, do so. And give yourself 2-3 days to spend there. It is a fascinating place with really lots of excellent specimens and information. Despite the site's rich assemblage, this is a quote from Kyle Atkins-Weltman, who is an assistant fossil preparer at the Biodiversity Institute and Natural History Museum at Kansas University. He says, despite the site's rich assemblage, the past 100 years have yielded fewer than 5 decently complete juvenile T-Rexes. And this gentleman is helping prepare this latest find. This is probably the most preserved and most complete. Other interesting finds that were found along with this possible baby T-Rex includes a nearly complete turtle, pieces of fish, and other dinosaurs. They even found the jaw of a placental mammal. Now, mammals back then were tiny, because you have these big things running around called dinosaurs, and they probably wouldn't stand up too much of a fight. The mammals were small. They were also mostly nocturnal, again to avoid any bad encounters with the big lumbering beasts running around. And it was not until after the KT event, when the big rock came tumbling out and hit the earth just off the Yucatan Peninsula, killing most of the dinosaurs, that there are now these ecological and evolutionary niches to be filled, and that's when the mammals basically began to increase in size as well as diversity. But back during the times of the dinosaurs, they were small creatures. So the fact we find so many different forms in a location is most likely indicative of a quick cataclysmic event that killed them. So let's talk a little more about the T-Rexes. They lived during the last 2 million years of the Cretaceous period, came right at the tail end of when dinosaurs were on the planet. So we're talking 67 million to 65 million years ago. So this animal was basically a young juvenile, about 17 feet long, 5 meters or so. It's larger than a previously studied specimen of a 3-year-old, but smaller than any other specimen that reached 11 years of age before dying. Atkins-Weltman postulates that this specimen is probably about 6 or 7 years old, maybe 8. Now, T-Rex tended to grow fast and quickly. The estimate, and they do this based on looking at cross-sections of the bones, looking at what's called reversion canals, which are structures that gives you indications of blood flow and metabolic rates of organisms. At its peak growth, they think that T-Rex would have grown between 1 and 3 pounds a day. So by the time it was about 4 years old, it would be the size of some of the large land predators we see currently on the planet today. They're still excavating, the paleontologists are still excavating the bones from this site, but so far they found both of the upper jaw bones with all the teeth intact. That's important. Found pieces of the foot, hips, backbones, and its roughly 25-inch long skull. just finding the skull alone is a find. So while it may look like a juvenile or a perhaps subadult T-Rex, more work is needed to be sure. And why is that? Is it a Nanotyrannus? Whenever a young T-Rex is found, there are always questions that perhaps those bones might actually be those of a Nanotyrannus, because baby T-Rexes, which are sleek in appearance, are very different in appearance from the adult T-Rex, to the point where they actually thought that baby T-Rexes were a different species. And this is put forth by Thomas Carr, who is a vertebrate paleontologist and associate professor of biology at Carthage College in Wisconsin. He was not involved in this finding, however. In the 1940s, a small tyrannosaur specimen was discovered and named Gorgosaurus lancensis. A later examination of the specimen, which is housed at the Cleveland Museum of Natural History, found that it was an entirely new genus that was dubbed Nanotyrannus. However, when Carr reviewed this fossil for his master's thesis, which was published in the Journal of Vertebrate Paleontology in 1999, he found that it had features seen in other juvenile tyrannosaurs, and on top of that had only unique features only seen in T-Rex, like the wide forehead, the narrow snout, and the eye sockets that face much more forward rather than to the side. Much more forward gives you overlapping fields of view, gives you stereoscopic vision, which is important if you wish to hunt down your prey, so you can better estimate the distance to your intended dinner. So the simplest explanation is that this particular specimen is a subadult T-Rex. Here's the interesting thing. If Nanotyrannus exists, researchers haven't found it yet. But what this is really an example, illustrates how science works. You find things, you analyze, you come up with what you think is a conclusion based on your best analysis of the data at hand, and then sometimes new data comes along, you have to rethink, revise, or someone comes along and challenges, saying, well, I don't think so, I think the interpretation might be different here, but this is how science works, and that's what's the exciting part of it. And on that point there, as the scientists say, if it turns out to be Nanotyrannus, okay. If it turns out to be the best small T-Rex, well, okay with that as well. Whatever it is, we get information. That's the important thing. The last paleontological news I will share with you here is this. This truck-sized dinosaur terrorized prey with razor-sharp meat hooks. A dinosaur the size of a truck sported sharp, long claws, basically the length of bowling pins. That's pretty impressive. And it once tore across the South American landscape, probably ripping apart whatever it came upon. But besides the dinosaur's fearsome Wolverine-like claws, its discovery has excited researchers for another reason. Little is known about its group, which is Megaraptoridae, which were mysterious carnivorous dinosaurs that lived during the Middle to Late Cretaceous. This is basically, a Megaraptoridae, a raptor. Think of Velociraptor. Think of Utahraptor. Okay? Think of Allosaurus, T-Rex. These are theropods. Okay? Theropods are the group of dinosaurs that gave rise to birds. Okay? It was one of the last megaraptorids that lived on our planet and one of the largest in size for its time. So says lead researcher Juan Porfiri, who's the coordinator at the Museum of Natural Sciences at the National University of Comahue in Argentina. Okay. This large theropod was found in 2006 by Diego Rosales, who is a technician at the same university, National University of Comahue. The team then excavated the bones and have been analyzing them. The researchers have given this newly identified dinosaur the scientific name of Tratayenia rosalesi, after the region where it was found, and a nod to the name of its discoverer. So during its lifetime, T. rosalesi would have measured about 9 meters, 30 feet or so, okay, be long and sported powerful 40 centimeters scythe-like talons on the innermost 2 fingers of each hand. These enormous claws likely helped the dinosaur catch and subdue prey, including other dinosaurs, which it would then have eaten with its very sharp teeth that were serrated like steak knives. Megaraptorid claws, well, I think they would give, was that Freddy from those horror films there? Give him a run for his money. Anyway, the dinosaur's giant size made it one of the largest and deadliest predators in southern South America, and it lived approximately 95 million to 85 million years ago. Other important aspects of this discovery is that T. rosalesi is the first member of the Megaraptoridae to have a complete series of hip vertebrae, also found back vertebrae, ribs, parts of the pelvis. Its bones were full of air pockets. We see air pockets in the bones of birds, right? Modern relative to the theropods. The vertebrate of Tratayenia were, the specimens were extremely splendid, very excellent shape, and with some interesting features to go along with it. Some experts say that Megaraptorids are related to the Carcharodontosaurus and Gigantosaurus, even larger southern hemisphere carnivores. Others contend it's more related to the T-Rex from North America. Well, we're talking about a 30 million year time differential. But again, this is what scientists do. They come up with their interpretations of what the data suggests to them, and then the debate is on. This report, this study can be found in the journal Cretaceous Research. So, I just wanted to share with you some more interesting news from the world of paleontology. It's always exciting to learn about these new discoveries because they've helped fill in gaps in our knowledge and helps give us more complete information on evolution and how the organisms develop through the millennia and over time, and what species they give rise to and so forth. If you like this video, please share this video. Please subscribe to my channel, hit the bell button so that you receive a notification every time I drop a video in. I hope you will consider going to patreon.com to support my work there, become a subscriber. If you're already a subscriber, I thank you for your support and continued support. Please tell others of the work I do. And I thank you for your time.